Hi, welcome to the Alaska Tribal Technical Assistance Program webinar series. This webinar is titled USDOT Discretionary Grants Dashboard Demonstration and is being presented to us today by Amanda Rogers of the Routes Initiative from DOT, which is Rural Opportunities to Use Transportation for Economic Success. Please extend a warm welcome to Amanda, who will be taking us through the dashboard.
I should unmute. Hi, everyone. As Vicki mentioned, my name is Amanda Rogers, and I do work at USDOT on the Routes Initiative. And so today, I'm going to do a quick overview of the Routes Initiative and some tools that we have. And then I'll dive deeper into our new tool, the DOT Discretionary Grants Dashboard. And then I'll follow up with some rural funding from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and some technical assistance. Afterwards, someone can feel free to throw out some projects they have, and we can see what grant programs we can find for you. So the Routes Initiative is rural opportunities to use transportation for economic success. And the initiative aims to address disparities in rural transportation infrastructure, as well as improve safety, mobility, and economic competitiveness. Specifically, the Routes Office, we have three main core functions. So engaging rural communities. So that involves doing events like this, doing webinars for various organizations, visiting rural communities to talk about funding opportunities and technical assistance, and different associations as well. We also harmonize DOT programs. And so when it comes to rural and tribal set-asides for grant programs, such as 20% of a grant program has to go to rural communities, that's what we do behind the scenes. And then utilizing a whole of government approach, we are involved in a lot of interagency, federal agency initiatives, just trying to make sure that we're talking about transportation funding. And so our website is a one-stop shop for rural resources. We do have a few webinars, particularly a benefit cost analysis for rural projects, as well as transit resources and the National Roadway Safety Strategy. We also have tools and toolkits. I'll get into the two toolkits in a second, but we do have a point of contact map. And so if you're looking for someone to contact, let's say in the Federal Highway Administration office for your state, you can find that map and contact the right person. We also have a rural eligibility map, which will allow you to toggle layers and actually see your community's eligibility for different grant programs. And lastly, we have funding opportunities and modal-specific landing pages. So the Rural EV Infrastructure Toolkit, this was updated in May 2023, so recently, and we updated it to include stakeholder feedback, expanded content on transit vehicles, school buses, micro-mobility, and accessible design. We also included new funding programs, such as the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Formula Program and the Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Discretionary Grant Program. And so this toolkit involves electric vehicle basics, benefits and challenges of rural vehicle electrification, partnership opportunities, planning. So how do you start getting EV infrastructure in your rural community, as well as grant loan opportunities and success stories. And then our other toolkit is the Rural Grant Applicant Toolkit. This came out about a year and a half ago. And it illustrates applicant activities when participating in the USDOT discretionary grants process. So you can see on my right, it might be your left, there's an applicant roadmap, which will take you throughout the whole process of a grant, as well as applying, starting with legislation, pre-award, applying, as well as post-award. And we're currently revising this. It should be out in the next few months. So it will be updated and will include information on federal funding and financing, as well as eligibility for discretionary grants, the application process, maximizing award success, which includes the merit criteria, as well as DOT and non-DOT discretionary grant programs. And those last two parts are actually where the DOT Discretionary Grants Dashboard came into play. And so now let's dig deeper into the meat of this. So the DOT Discretionary Grants Dashboard provides an overview of discretionary grant opportunities for transportation infrastructure. As I mentioned, it came from the Rural Grant Applicant Toolkit, but is a resource for any type of community. And the dashboard helps potential applicants in identifying and navigating discretionary opportunities for your transportation projects. And you'll see a QR code that'll be on most slides from now on. And so feel free at any point to use your phone and your camera and find the dashboard. And so some quick highlights. There are over 90 grant programs in this dashboard. And as I mentioned, it covers 8 DOT agencies, so Federal Highway Administration, Federal Railroad Administration, and Federal Aviation Administration, but it also includes non-DOT agencies that may fund transportation infrastructure. So that includes, we have some FEMA grants, Federal Emergency Management Agency grants. We have some from Department of Labor, really just any federal agency that's going to fund transportation infrastructure. There are multiple search filters. So you can search by keyword, eligible activities and eligible entities, which I'll touch on the next slide. But you can also search by transportation type. So whether that's aviation, railway, road, port. You can also search by match waiver. So whether that 20% match is waived or not, as well as status. So whether the grant is open or closed. And these features are particularly helpful for rural and tribal communities. And if you find some grant programs that you like, you can save your results as an Excel file and then share that around to your colleagues. So for the eligible applicants and eligible activities, we really tried to make sure that any community using this can really piece out what their project is about and find the perfect grant program or one that fits for them. So for eligible applicants, you can search by state government, local government, U.S. territories, federally recognized tribes and affiliated organizations, but also by planning and project organizations, transportation providers and operators, universities, private sector applicants, and nonprofits. And the same goes for eligible activities. There's a lot, which includes planning, construction, equipment and materials, operations and maintenance, technology demonstrations and deployment, technical assistance, research, climate and sustainability, and accessibility. So once you find, you search and you put in your fields and you are looking at a list of grant programs and you find one that you think might be a good fit, you can click on it and you'll be taken to a website for the grant page, which includes a brief summary, the current status, whether it's open or closed, eligible applicants, activities, and transportation type, the most recent annual program amount and individual award amount, match waiver and applicant match requirement, as well as link to grants.gov page. And so if it's an open grant, there'll be a link there that takes you directly to the website to apply, as well as eligibility, funding, and contact information. And so if you have a question, you can find that contact information on that page and make sure that your question will get answered by the program itself. So I have some examples, quick examples to go through. So let's say you are a city government looking for roadway funding opportunities for planning. So under eligible activities, you would put planning, eligible applicants, local government, and transportation type, you put roadway. And then you see is a list of grant programs that fit that program. So this is just the first snapshot on my right. You can see that there are 26 that match these filters. And so we have some from Federal Highway Administration, Bridge Investment Program, an Accelerated Innovation Deployment Demonstration Program. And as you can see, we also have one from Department of Homeland Security and FEMA. For the next one, for the next example, say you're a nonprofit interested in funding for equipment and materials on a roadway project. And so once again, eligible activities, equipment and materials, applicants, nonprofit, and transportation type as roadway. And then to my right is the list of 9 entries that you do get from this search, which include grants from the Environmental Protection Agency, Clean School Bus Rebates Program, as well as one from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, which is a DOT agency, which is their Commercial Driver's License Program Implementation Program. And then the last quick example I have is say you're a tribal government interested in funding for a railway project with a match waiver available. And so this time you're going to put in eligible applicants as federally recognized tribes, transportation type is railway, and then match waiver, you'll put yes. And from that, you get the list of grants. And so one such grant is Port Infrastructure Development Program, as well as Public Transportation Emergency Relief Program. And then you can also see there's one from the Economic Development Administration with the Department of Commerce. And we do realize that this is, our first go at this type of dashboard. And so some next steps are to synchronize listings with grants.gov. And so with those grant pages, not only will you find the link, to apply, but you can find additional information on grants.gov and can link you directly to the notice of funding opportunity. We're also working on more grant programs as we continue to hear of more grant programs, and as bipartisan infrastructure law continues to get implemented, we're going to be adding grant programs that are applicable. And we're always looking to improve the user experience. We're always trying to think of new ways to make this even more accessible and useful. And then real quick, I'm going to touch on some bipartisan infrastructure law funding. So this is a table of all of the current USDOT grant programs that are open. We do have one that's called Protect, which is that first one, and that is for resilience in transportation. And then we also have a nationally significant federal lands and tribal projects program, and that closes September 6th. And then we also have the Rural and Tribal Assistance Pilot Program, which I'll mention in a bit. And the one I really want to mention real quick is the Rural Surface Transportation Grant. This program is specifically for larger rural projects for surface transportation. And so at least 90% of the projects go to a minimum of 25 million. There is a max 80% cost share and max 100% federal cost share. The fiscal year 22 awards were announced in December 22, and almost 300 million was awarded. One in particular was awarded in Alaska, and it was for the native village of Wales, and they received $10 million to construct 3.6 miles of access road to connect to a BIA road segment and Tin City. And currently, this program is open. It closes August 21st, and it will include fiscal years 23 and 2024. And so about $700 million is available. And then lastly, I'm going to touch on some technical assistance in case you're interested. USDOT has recently worked on our DOT Navigator. It helps communities find grant opportunities, but also access technical assistance. So you can find contacts to DOT regional and field offices, grant writing resources, additional webinars that have been recorded, as well as best practice documents. There's also sample grant application resources. How to navigate grants.gov to submit applications is a big one. And then as well as maximizing award success, an introduction to evaluation criteria. And then lastly, I really want to mention this Rural and Tribal Assistance Pilot Program. This pilot program will offer $3.4 million for fiscal year 22 and 23 for eligible entities to hire financial, technical, and legal advisors. There is no match for this program. And so you would need to have an eligible pre-development phase activity, which can include feasibility studies, project planning, preliminary engineering and design work, economic assessments, and cost benefit analyses. The application is currently open. It opened yesterday at 2 p.m. And so I would urge any community that is struggling for capacity, as I know a lot of rural and tribal communities do. This is a great way to really make sure you have that capacity. If you're really struggling with the cost benefit analysis, this program will allow you to receive funding to hire someone. Say you're struggling with grant writing, but you can't afford to hire a professional grant writer. This program may be able to supply you with that funding for a professional grant writer. And this program is on a rolling basis. And so if any community is interested, I highly urge you to check it out. And if you're interested, to apply. And that QR code will take you to the page. And so that's all I have for the presentation. Feel free to contact us. Our email is super easy. It's rural@dot.gov. And you can also subscribe to our routes newsletter, which is the QR code there. We also send out email blasts for relevant funding opportunities for rural communities. And if we have time, I can't see the clock, but if we have time, I can go to the dashboard website and demo more.
You certainly have plenty of time, Amanda, so I would go ahead and show off the dashboard itself and take people through a few searches.
Okay, sounds good.
And if anybody wants to post a few ideas for searches in the chat, to help Amanda out here, that would be great.
All right, let me share my screen again real fast. Okay. So this is the DOT Discretionary Grants Dashboard. And so this is what it looks like. So we have the eligible activities, applicants. You can also search by agency and office. And so if you're only looking for USDOT funding, you can make sure that, you can search by that, as well as the match waiver and set asides. And then up here is the download to Excel file. So with all of these grant programs, there's 97, we definitely need to narrow it down. And so let's start with eligible applicants. Let's go with federally recognized tribes. Eligible activities, let's look at operations and maintenance. And then transportation type, let's start easy with roadway. Then you just hit apply and it'll refresh. And then you can scroll down and it'll tell you how many it's displaying out of how many. So there are 13 that match this. And so we can see accelerated innovation deployment demonstration program from the Federal Highway Administration. And then we have some others from other federal agencies. And so if this tribal community was interested in connecting transit to the local VA Veterans Affairs Office, there are grants for that as well. And you can find many of the different grants. Here's another one from Department of the Interior, another Federal Highway Administration, so the National Scenic Byways Program, as well as Protect, which I mentioned, promoting resilient operations for transformative, efficient, and cost-saving transportation, as well as safe streets and roads for all. Do we have anything in the chat? Any ideas?
No one's posted anything, but I would, let's say for planning purposes, keep it on tribes, but let's go with what's available for planning. And is trails on there? Trails or
Bike, pedestrian.
Yeah, I mean, one of the primary methods for a lot of Alaska rural communities involve ATVs and snow machines.
Okay.
So if people, oops, somebody's posted something in chat. Okay, cost, somebody's looking for cost benefit analysis.
So technical assistance, I'm guessing that would be. So for transportation type, I'll go ahead and put any. And so you can search down, there's one for Federal Aviation Administration, Department of Labor has building pathways to infrastructure jobs. Let's see if I can find one for technical assistance itself. Looks like Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration has some technical assistance grants for pipeline safety. It looks like for the technical assistance aspect, so if you're looking at, trying to receive funding for cost benefits, so doing the cost benefit analysis, really that rural and tribal assistance pilot program is going to be your best bet. And the DOT Navigator also has a lot of resources for that cost benefit analysis, which I know can be difficult for a lot of communities.
Okay, and we have somebody who has their hand raised, so I'm going to allow them to talk. Andrew Eski Toyukak, go ahead and unmute. And ask.
Yeah, the chat box is not working. And then I saw the question and answer tab. I was gonna type, but thank you for planning and design assistance, I've been looking for opportunities for that. We have a couple of projects that we'd like to get
Okay.
Planning taken care of.
Okay. Any specific transportation type?
Roadway.
Roadway. Gotcha.
All right, I think I have fixed the chat, so people should be able to post in it now. So please try again.
Alrighty, so we have 27 results. Let me find one we haven't yet talked about. Maybe. With RAISE. And so RAISE, which is Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. And so this program funds capital investments in surface transportation that may not fit quite nicely into a different grant program. So this grant program for the next year, it will have $1.5 billion. So it's one of our largest programs. And it really fits a multitude of things. As you can see, the transportation type on the side, it funds most of it. And so I'm going to go ahead and click this grant program page so y'all can see what that looks like. And so the general grant program information, it also typically has a link to the grant program itself on dot.gov. So for this program, a benefit cost analysis is required. And they give you some helpful links for guidance and what a BCA is. You can see the opportunity status. It is closed, but it will be open next year with the notice of funding opportunity coming out in November. So you can see the applicants' activities, most recent funding opportunity or funding amounts. And then let me see planning. And so this has eligible activities. And so scrolling down, we can see that planning projects are eligible for planning, preparation, or design. So environmental analysis, feasibility studies, even benefit cost analysis of eligible surface transportation capital projects. And then it also goes into the different merit criteria, as well as any minimum award amounts. And then at the very end, you can see the contact information. So to answer the question that came up, RAISE would be a really good program for planning, particularly for roadway projects.
Yeah, we knew about RAISE for several years now, and we tried submitting 3 times now, but every time we apply, it's never approved, never awarded.
Gotcha. Let's look at Reconnecting Communities pilot program. This is a newer program, so it's currently open, accepting grant applications. And so this is particularly for reconnecting, well, communities that were divided by transportation infrastructure. And so the one we think of the most is the highway going through Detroit, but it can also be connecting to communities between a river. It can be, maybe having to go around a mountain and you have to make a tunnel. That was a bad example, but it can be anything considering reconnecting. Some of the projects that have been funded included bike and pedestrian trails. And so funding ATV trails could be a possibility in this program because you would be connecting to different communities. And so this grant program currently has about $200 million available. There is a match requirement, as you can see here, and no match waiver. But you are allowed to work with other communities, with other organizations in order to be successful in this grant program. And then for this, for the planning grants for this program, planning uses include public engagement activities, feasibility studies, engineering, traffic studies, capacity measurements, roadway design, as well as safety evaluations, as well and cost estimations. Okay, I see something else in the chat. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Mark. I also love the Protect program. I worked at FEMA for about a year, and so I definitely love resilience. Communities with a wildlife refuge between them. That would be applicable. Absolutely. And I do have a program in mind, and let me see if it's on this list that is specifically for wildlife. Yes. So this program did close this month, but it will be around next year. And so this is the Wildlife Crossings Pilot Program, and it's funding for projects to reduce the number of wildlife vehicle collisions and improve habitat connectivity. And so while not necessarily improving a road, but if this is something your community struggles with, which a lot of rural communities do, this could help you, connect the wildlife refuge, as was mentioned. And I believe, doesn't say, but I believe there are planning grants with this. And as you can see, there is a 60% set aside. So 60% of the grant funds are to be awarded to projects in rural areas. And so this is a really good program, whether you're struggling with wildlife and safety, and maybe even reconnecting the communities between a wildlife refuge. I think I answered all the questions. Do we have any more? Or anything else someone would want to see?
All right, since nobody has posted or raised their hand or indicated that they want to ask additional questions, then I think we can say thank you, Amanda, for presenting on this. And people can contact Amanda, can contact me, can contact Miles, who is another panelist available today, if they have questions or want assistance in all of this. And I'm going to end the recording right now.